Hey, fifth graders. Okay, so you guys might have been watching this over the course of days, or maybe nobody watched this, I don't know. But chances are, well, for one thing, you've noticed that I have the same clothes on because I'm doing this all at once. Also, you might notice that I'm getting progressively sweatier, maybe. I don't know if you can see it in the video, but it is wicked hot inside this room right now. I'm glad that there's not 15 of you in here with me because it is not cool by any stretch of the imagination. Had a couple of warm days here, and the school is empty, so they're not running the AC. So if you guys were all here running around at recess, you would be grumbling and complaining to me about the temperature, and we'd actually probably be outside, to be perfectly honest, because it's May and we might as well. Well, it's May for me. I don't know what it is for you guys. Anyway, so today, or for lesson 17, which is where we are, which is GR 39 is where it starts, we've got two new things that you guys have never run into before. Median and mode, or at least I don't know that you've run into it. Maybe this was a fourth grade thing, but in fifth grade we never talked about this. So the median is a set of data, the median of a set of data is the middle value when the data are all written in order. So basically, if you're given a whole bunch of numbers, let's say that we were doing the number of siblings for everybody in the class, right? So we just go through, and some of you would have 1, and maybe some of you would have 0, and some of you would have 6 or whatever. We would just go through and we just put all of those numbers in order, and the median would be the middle number. Since there were 15 kids in my class this year, that means that the median would be, you'd have 7 on one side, and then you'd have that 8th number, and then there'd be 7 more after that, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then 8 is the middle one, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 gets you to 15. And so that median is just what is the middle number? That's all it's asking. It is possible to have multiple medians. Like you might have, so if you have an odd number like 15, like we had in our class, right? You would have a perfect, this is the exact middle, okay? 7 on one side, 7 on the other side, that's 14. The one in the middle is the 15th one, right? Or it's the 8th one, but you get what I'm saying. However, if we only had 14 kids in the class that day, then we would have 7 and 7, right? So we'd have this perfect, there's no real true middle. So what you have to do is you take the middle 2, okay? So in this case, we'd have the 7th one and then the 8th one after that. Those are the middle 2 in between 14, and you would find the average of them. So just kind of show you what I'm saying. Let's say, by coincidence, that we went through it and every single person had a different number of kids in their family. We'll say, well, let's say cousins. That maybe makes a little more sense, right? So some of you have 1 cousin, and I just went through, and then everybody had 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, all the way up to the 14th person had 14 cousins. So I'm just going to write those numbers in order. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Regretting doing 14, 8, 9. Let's just say there was 10 kids in the class that day because I don't want to write all those numbers out. Oh, and I wrote them too high. Darn it. All right, let's just do it real quick. Okay. Blech. There. Better. Cool. All right. So here's all of our data points, right? So one of you has 1 cousin, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all the way up to 10. Okay, everybody has a different number of cousins, and it just happened to work out that we had all of the numbers between 1 and 10 perfectly. Now, if we were finding the median, we would say, okay, well, what's the middle number? Well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on this side, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on this side. So we actually have 2 middle numbers, which are these 2 right here, okay? So 5 and 6 are your middle number. So what you're going to do to find the median is you're going to go 5 plus 6 divided by 2. And 5 plus 6 is 11. 11 divided by 2 is going to be 5.5. All right? So your median is equal to 5.5. All right? Nice and easy. Now, the mode of a data set, so this is your kind of the next vocabulary word, I guess, for the math here. The mode of the data set is the data value or values that occur most often. A data set may have, and this is important, you can have one mode, you can have 0 modes, or you can have several modes. It just depends on what the numbers do. So it's really the number that appears the most often. So for this group right here, which number appears the most often? Well, none of them, right? Because every single one of them is a different number. So we would say mode, and don't write 0 because it's not 0, but you would just say none. Okay, so the mode is none. There's no mode. But if we had a slightly different data set, so let's say that we had 2, 2, 3, 4, 6, 6, 9, 10, 10. Okay, so let's say that this was our, I wrote it up there. Just the right height is always right where that stinking glare is. Anyway, let's write it below. Okay, 2, 2, 3, 4, 6, 6, 9, 10. Okay. There, better. Now, first of all, if we were going to find the median, well, we'd go, okay, how many numbers do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So since it's an odd number, we'll have right in the middle. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is 5, or the fifth number. 1, 2, 3, 4 after it. So 4 before it, 4 after it. So this here is the median. Okay, so the median equals 6. Now the mode, we have to look for, okay, which number appears most often. Now, don't be confused. It is not which number appears more than once. That's not the mode, okay? It is which one appears most often. So if we have this particular grouping, well, we'd say, okay, I notice that there are 2 2s. There are, I'm going to erase this here. There are 2 6s, and there are 2 10s. And there's nothing that has 3 or more, so our mode is going to be 2 and 6 and 10. So you can have multiple modes. You can have none. If we had another 2 right here, well, then the mode would only be 2. Okay? Because this one would have 3, and all the others would either have 2 or 1. So mode is just which number appears the most often, and it is possible to have a tie, in which case you just put all the ones that tie. I'm going to tell you right now, this is kind of an annoying lesson. I would love to say like, oh no, it's super fun, it's super easy. They're going to give you things that have a whole bunch of numbers, and you have to write them in order so that you can figure out what is the median and what is the mode. Because it is not the middle number for the median. It's not the middle number that shows up in the list that they gave. It is the middle number once you put them in order. So you have to write them in order first to figure out what the median is, which is what makes it annoying. My suggestion is to write a number and then kind of like put a little dot or cross it out or something like that. Just do your best to keep them all straight. We'll do a couple of examples here, if for no other reason than to give you fewer problems that you have to worry about figuring out on your own. Let's start with, let's see, that's not too bad, that's not too bad. I tell you what, let's start with number 4. So number 4 gives you a whole bunch of numbers, but I'm going to actually write them for you in order so you don't have to worry about it. But if I got it right, it should be 3 6s, and then a 7, and then 2, 3, 4, 5 8s, and then a 10. Okay, like that. So first of all, we have to figure out what is the median. This has to do with movie ticket prices. So these are all in dollars. So the median is, well, how many do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we have 10 numbers. Okay, so we're not going to have a true perfect median. We're going to have to do some calculations. Whenever you have 10, that means that it's going to be the 5th and 6th number are the middle. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So these two here are the median. Now, Obviously, we could add these together. 8 plus 8 divided by 2. So 8 plus 8 is 16 divided by 2 is 8. If you have a median where the numbers happen to be the exact same number, obviously, if you add them together and then divide by 2, you're going to end up with the answer. So you can just write 8. You don't have to worry about doing the adding and division. And then the mode is which number appears most often. Well, I see 3 6s here, but I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 8s. 8 appears the most often, so our mode is going to be 8. All right, so it's possible for the median and the mode to be the same number. That's not a big deal. Those are two separate questions. They have nothing to do with each other. And it's possible, like I said, you know, we've got 3 6s, but we have 5 8s, so it doesn't matter that we have 3 6s. The mode is still going to be 8 because it's the one that appears most often. All right, we'll do one more, really. We'll do number 7. Okay, and I point out number 7 just because it's annoying. So for whatever reason, they decided on number 7 to have one of the numbers up by the words, like for whatever reason. All the other ones, all the numbers are all in a line, but number 7, if you look, it says lengths of humpback whale songs, and then it's in minutes, and then it says 25. That's part of that set of that data set. And so if you just, for whatever reason, just looked down at the series of numbers below it, you would miss one of your data points, which would totally change everything. So writing these in order, we would have, let's see, 22, 22, 25, 26, 29, 31, 31, and 33. Okay, so there's all the numbers written in order. And so first of all, we have to find the median. Well, we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So again, we're not going to have a true median. So 1, 2, 3, here's the 4th number and the 5th number. And so we've got 3 on this side, 3 on this side. So this is going to be our median. Now for this one, you are going to have to add them up and divide by 2. So 26 plus 29 is going to be 55, if my memory is correct, or if I'm doing it right. Yep. So we're going to go 55 divided by 2. 5 goes in, or 2 goes into 5 twice, which is 4, which gives you a 1. Bring down the 5. 2 goes into 15 7 times, which is 14. And now we have an issue, right? Because we've run out of numbers, and yet we still have this. We cannot say 27 with a remainder of 1. That is not okay at this point. I don't know if it'll ever be okay again. Outside of questions like how many people are left out in the cold when you're dividing other things up. So we're going to have 1 left over, but we just put a decimal point here and a decimal point up above it. Add a 0, drop down the 0. 2 goes into 10 5 times, which is 10, which gives us 0. So our median is 27.5. And then for the mode, we have to figure out which numbers appear most often. So again, we're going to count up. Well, I see 2 for 22. Those are all different. And I see 2 for 31 and then 33. So we have 2 here. So we have our mode is going to be 22 and 31. And that's it. So that's the answer for number 7. Yeah, I would like to tell you that, you know, there's a trick to getting around this stuff. There's not. You just kind of have to write it out. Just deal with it. Do your best. Make sure you count up all the numbers, and then after you write them all out, count up and make sure that you have the same number, because sometimes it's easy to miss one. But aside from that, it's really just writing them out and then figuring out what's the middle number, and then what is the what number appears most often. So, yeah, that's about it. But you know, fortunately, it's not too big of a deal. Also, remember, don't forget units, especially on the homework where they don't give it to you. So, yeah. Actually, you know what? Let's just we're going to go ahead and roll into lesson 18 as well. So, lesson 18 is going to be one where I'm going to say something that I never told you guys during class, and it is this. please use a calculator on this. I'm begging you, please use a calculator. You can show this to your parents. You have my permission. Please use a calculator. I did these by hand. It was a mess because you're adding up, sometimes 10 or 11 numbers, and it's easy to lose track of them. It turns into gobbledygook. It's bad. Just use a calculator. It is totally okay with me if you use a calculator on this. Frankly, I think that they should have maybe, for averages, started you off with some simpler numbers. They do give you some that are simple, but they also give you some that are not so simple. So use a calculator. You have my permission. In fact, because I'm giving you the permission to use it on this, it's kind of one of those things where I'm like, I'd like to tell you to only use the calculator when you're finding the averages, but the truth of the matter is that once you have that calculator out, you might as well just use it for everything else. When you get to 6th grade, I assume that they're probably going to tell you to bring a calculator to school and that you will be allowed to use it, because a lot of it at that point is we expect you to know how to do the math problems, so we don't care if you use a calculator to do it, is kind of how it's going to work out. Your teachers might tell you differently, but certainly for this lesson and then for subsequent lessons, you have my permission to use a calculator as necessary. So we're going to be finding averages. And we talked a little bit about finding averages in class, if you recall. But basically, to find the average, you're going to add up all of the numbers, and then you're going to divide by the number of numbers, okay? So if we were doing like, what is the average math score in this class, right? So 15 of you take a math test, you get whatever scores you get. We would add up all of those scores, all those points. So maybe some person got 95 points, and another person got 65 points, and another person got 22 points because they just did really terrible. We would add all of those up, right? And then we would divide by the number of students who took the test. And that would tell us the average for the class. So let's just take a look here. We'll do unlocking the problem, and then maybe I'll do just like one or two problems on the back, just because you're going to be using a calculator, so that's okay. Anyway, Jonathan and Pillar, I don't know, whatever, it doesn't matter, are practicing to be a juggling team. Of course they are. The table shows the number of seconds they are able to keep 4 balls in the air without making a mistake. What was the average number of seconds they were able to juggle? So, and then they give you a whole bunch of them, right? So step 1 is we're going to find the sum of the seconds. So we have 32 plus 8 plus 62 plus 55, that's terrible 5, plus 13. Okay, so first of all, we have to figure that out. If we add those all up, fortunately, they just tell us it's 170. And then we're going to divide that by the number of groups, basically, that we have, right? The trials, I guess. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're going to do 170 divided by 5. With your calculator, you can probably figure this out pretty quickly, but I'm not sure that you could do it faster than I could do it. Anyway. So 34 seconds was their average, right? So unlike the median and the mode that we talked about in the previous lesson, where you're finding like the middle number or you're figuring out which number happened most often, that sort of thing, now all of the numbers are a little more important as opposed to just being, find that middle number, find which ones appear more often. So let's see. All right. Okay, that's. Oh, let's see. These are just all awful. All right, so basically, I'm just going to tell you what they all added up to for the problems that we do together. I'm not going to write them all out and then add them up. Since all of my answers worked out to a nice, pretty even number, I am assuming that I probably added them up correctly. It's possible that I made a mistake. If so, then please let me know. But as far as I know, I got these all right. I didn't check an answer key or anything like that online. There probably is one, but I didn't look for it. So let's take a look at, well, first of all, let's take a look at number 1A, B, and C. Okay, so it gives you this, Tommy's basketball scoring record is shown for the month. What was the average number of points he scored per game? Okay, so it gives you all the games and it gives you all the points that he scored. And then you just have to add those up. If you add them all up, he got 136 total points. And how many games did he play? Well, you can just look at the far number to the right at the very top. That's his, they played 8 games. So you're just going to divide 136 by 8. And 136 divided by 8 is, oops, that's an 8, is 17. Okay, so his average was 17 points per game. Terrible. Okay, so for units, a lot of times when it comes to averages, you're going to be this per this. It's just kind of the way it works. There's not going to be a lot of units that are asked of you, but just so you know. So let's see. Oh, I tell you what, let's do number 10, because it was awful. Number 10 was the one that finally broke me. I was trying to be strong, and no, I'm just going to do this all by hand in pen, which is dumb, but by hand on the page and work them all out. And then that one was adding up, really it was only 4 numbers, so you would think that that would not be the case, but what happened was I ended up doing one of the numbers twice, and I just couldn't figure out why it was not working out pretty, and it's because I messed that up. But yeah, I was like, this has gotten ridiculous. 10 and then 11 has just a whole bunch of numbers, and I said, nope, forget it, I'm done getting out a calculator. So 10, if you added all those up, you would get 4,748. And then you count up, and there was 4 total numbers, so not too hard. So if you do the math here, 4 goes into 4 one time, goes into 7 one time, 4, goes into 3, oh, it doesn't go into 3, but we have to bring down the 4. Goes into 34 8 times, which is 32, and it goes into 28 7 times. So your answer is 1,187 is the average for those four numbers there on number 10. This is number 10. If you didn't hear me say that. Yeah. So a lot of these are pretty straightforward. Let's look at 13 and 14, actually. Actually, you know what? No, let's not look at 13 and 14. Sorry. I was going to do that, but then I feel like it kind of takes away. Like 13 and 14 are really probably the 2 most interesting problems. I'm sure some of you are like, no, please take it away from us. We don't care. But they're the ones that maybe make you think the most and kind of use this information a little bit. Some of you might remember that when we were doing class and I was talking about don't blow off homework, don't, that sort of thing. Like you should always do your homework, because if you look at your average, right, if you get 100% on the first test or on the first homework and then you get a 0% on the second, well, now your average is 50%. And then if you get 100% on the next one, well, now your average is a 66%, 100% on the next one, your average is a 75%, even though you've gotten 3 100s, but that 1 0 really drags you down, right? So that's kind of math in the real world sort of a thing. And 13 and 14 are sort of a similar idea. 13 just wants the average temperature, which is pretty straightforward. You just add them up, and then you're going to divide by, looks like there's 7 days, so you divide by 7. Okay. The interesting thing is 14, where it says that the temperature for the next 2 days was 70 degrees. How does that change the average? Well, so now you have to figure out, okay, what is the new total number of degrees, basically, and then divide that by a new number, which is not by 7, but by 9. And now I've talked a whole lot about this problem that I told you I wasn't going to do, but that's okay. So anyway, hopefully you do that one and just, I don't know, I'd love it. In my head, I'm going to pretend like you guys really found it interesting and did great. One thing I will warn you about, number 13 and 14 on the quote-unquote homework, the GRP 18 page, which would have been homework if we were actually doing this in class, is very similar to 13 and 14 on the previous one. However, it says on number 14, it says, in the snowfall table above, suppose the amount of snowfall for each of the next 3 months was 6 inches. So that does not mean that over the next 3 months they get 6 total inches of snow. That means that every month for 3 months they get 6 inches of snow, which would be 6 plus 6 plus 6, which is 18. So don't add in 6 one time, add in 18, and that'll help you with the average. Yeah, so that's it. We just have 2 lessons left, and one of them I hate, and the other one is actually not so bad, but the one that I hate, I really hate, but well, that's another video. So anyway, have a good day, and I'll talk to you later.